I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. And in Norway,
he's from Norway. That's not always the easiest pronunciations.
Yeah. But man, he has become a favorite of us and the people in the back and of the fans. He's shared a lot and he's been going through a lot lately. I really would like to talk to him. Frode?
Oh,
hey man!
Too much nice about me. Thank you. First and foremost, Noah, I am your biggest fan from Norway. I love you.
I'm so stoked to know that somebody's listening in Norway. That's amazing. Thank you.
God awful movies is one of my favorite things to listen to. When I listen to that, I can't do anything else but almost piss my pants from laughter.
Thank you so much, man.
I actually did watch Vultures of Horror just to listen to your show. And that is one of the worst experiments in my entire life, but your podcast made it all worth it. So thank you so much, Noah.
You bet. And for people who don't know, by the way, Vultures of Horror is a TV show out of, I believe, Nigeria. That is, it's Christian, but it's got that weird African Christian feel to it, where there's, it's sort of been melded with a lot of tribal mythology and everything. And it's just a really weird take on Christianity, but it's also like the worst CGI you can imagine and the worst actors you can imagine. So if you love terrible movies, I'd really recommend you check it out.
And I recommend your podcast about it. So that's why I am a patron of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, that was not where I was actually going to call into because...
Yeah, but what did you want to talk about?
I had a relapse this week. I was 2 messages, and I'm going to be completely honest, away from taking my own life this week because I was so depressed. It's terrible. I got much help from Nikki that I met through Talk Heathen. So thanks again to her for helping me through one of the worst nights of my life. But yeah, I woke up and I was so angry at God because he didn't exist.
Yeah, as weird as that sound, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have had a friend for 39 years and you discover that that friend doesn't exist,
it can still feel like losing him.
Yeah, no, it's still a betrayal, even though there's no one there to betray you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if God doesn't exist, I don't really have any reason to live, because then I'm nobody. I'm not a part of his plan because he doesn't exist. Okay, there is no plan. I don't need to exist anymore. And I just got that mind in my head. It's one of the worst things when you miss somebody that you loved for so many years. When it turns out that person or that thing doesn't exist, because you lose something that has been such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about it like, I was never religious, so I can't entirely relate to what you're going through. But I think about it like if you were told your whole life that, it's like Dumbo's feather, right? If you're told your whole life, hey, this jacket is bulletproof and it's fireproof, and anytime you wear this jacket, nothing can harm you, even if that was a lie the whole time. When you find out that that's a lie, even though you never had the bulletproof, you never had the fireproof, you still feel that you've lost something. And I think that's largely because you've been given a reason not to go through all of the stages of fear, et cetera, that the rest of us, those of us who were raised without that jacket, go through. So then when you realize that you've been lied to or that you've been misled by religion, you have to, in very short order, catch up with all the rest of the world. And you have to deal with these things that up until now in your life, you've just been able to say, well, yeah, but God is going to take care of that. There are so many things that wind up in that basket when you're religious.
Yeah.
And and again, it's like trying to trying to catch up in a race where you're 5 miles behind to start.
And it's also about like the thing that has surprised me is how much I miss having someone that's higher than me to talk to, that I can lay my problems on, that I can like talk to. What I have learned through this process is going through my journal is one of the things that I've done promptly, because when I read my journal, I see how bad I was from the first time I just called in to talk Heathen. I remember the first time we talked, Jamie. Jesus Christ, sorry for using his name in that way.
I'm pretty sure nobody here is going to be upset at you for that, man. But
I remember that call as it was yesterday, and it has been such. I'm in a mourning period, and I feel like this part of my life that doesn't exist anymore, that was such a lie. I miss that part of me. I really mourn having God on my side. I'm not saying that he's real, but I miss that he was real in my mind.
Yeah, I totally get it, man.
Well, you know, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it.
But one of the things, and again, like I said, I'm coming to this from the position of somebody who was never really religious. You know, my parents sort of half-assed told me, yeah, there's a Jesus, there's a God, now go away. So it didn't take me long to sort of dismiss all of that. But I get specifically when you talk about the ability to talk to God, right? To talk to someone that's always going to listen to you, always going to love you, et cetera. And I know a lot of atheists who still pray. Right? They know they're praying to a non-existent God, but the act of saying those words aloud, the act of actually expressing all of that, you know, me personally, when I'm going through a rough time in my life, and this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but I will call dead people on my phone. I'll just pick up my phone and pretend that I'm talking to someone that I admire from history. And I think it serves that same function. And obviously, it's nowhere near as comforting psychologically when you know that it's an illusion. But hey, you know, even when you know the magician is fooling you, the magic is still good, right? And like I said, I don't know, again, because I've never been in your shoes or in a position similar to yours, I don't know how helpful that could be. But, you know, again, just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean that you can't still express those same things, that you can't still say them aloud or say them in your head, even if you know that there's no one really listening. And
there's nothing bad about it. You said bad, but I mean, if you're using the best tools that you have, you know, if this is how you understand that the world works, then what is there bad about growing and learning and becoming a better person and expecting and wanting more from the world? It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And the fact is when you're honest about it, when you're open about it, other people won't be ashamed to say, hey, you know what? I'm experiencing this too, because you're not the only one. I mean, a big reason why I thought I was broken is because everyone else in church played along when they said that they could hear God speaking to them, when they said that they experienced miracles, right? Because they didn't want to be left out, and they were able to trick themselves, or they were able to try and find meaning in the randomness of this universe. And I thought there was something wrong with me, and it wasn't until way, way later that I actually found out that it's true for all of us, and that's okay.
I just think it's the loneliness that is the killer, because I now that it's been so many weeks that I've talked to people from my church, there has been nobody from my church that has brought out to ask how I was doing. Nobody from my congregation that has even knocked on my door, or even a phone call. My best friend in the church that I actually thought was my friend doesn't respond to my SMSs and calls anymore because I'm not a part of his congregation. And that's like the loneliness and desperation you feel in losing your network,
your community, you. All of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so...
And it's so conditional. It's so conditional, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so I actually got in touch with somebody. Her name is Danielle. Hey, Danielle. She went to the same church that I did, and we were talking about what it was like to be completely outgrouped, you know, and to see people get gaslighted, especially women. The way that women were treated in the church that I went to is unbelievably bad. And seeing that abuse, it's bad enough when you have a partner, and it's easy, even when you have one person in your life who's telling you, no, you're just wrong. There's something wrong with you. You're broken. Let's fix you. And that can keep someone in for life. But when you have an entire community that reinforces it, if everyone you know feels that way,
yeah,
I mean, how is there a way out? You know, I talked to somebody who was on the on a Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and they asked me, they said that someone they loved had passed away, and they had received a text from that person who was dying, in the process of dying, and said, I don't want you to come visit me, and I don't want you to come to my funeral. And they found out that it was their family who sent that. It wasn't the person that they loved. They had taken that person's cell phone and took away from them that chance to say goodbye. You know, that removal, that pull away, right? Holding people hostage, holding someone's memory hostage. You know, when I was in church, we talked about agape love. And agape love was unconditional. And yet, I see a lot of strings, you know?
Well, it's one of religion's favorite bludgeons to use, right? They control your community. They control very often your family. You know, I know a couple that, you know, disowned their son because he's gay, and their church told them to. And I've never met their son. He moved, you know, half a country away from them. I only know them, and I see the misery that it brings them. Right? You know, and they're the ones doing it, but they're being told by their church that this is necessary for his growth, that he needs to, you know, that he will come back to God, and the only way to get him there is through this ostracization. So it's a matter of, like, it's, you know, everyone is being made miserable by this, you know? And again, that's a bludgeon that that religion loves to use. And look, I mean, Eric's no God, but he's a great guy. So, you know,
you have not heard of the Book of Eric. I will teach you, my friend. I will teach you. It's
all
okay.
Right.
We will convert you.
Sounds good. But the point being, you know, I know that the atheist community can't replace an all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient being, but, you know, we can try. We can be there for you, you know. I know there are so many people who are in the same situation as you that have lost their community. And, you know, this was obviously probably a lot harder 100 years ago or 50 years ago. But now that we can commune online, at the very least, we can mitigate that somehow, that there are these communities that are willing to embrace you. Now, I don't know, because I know, like, obviously Norway is not as religious as of a country as the U.S., so I don't know, you know, what you have available to you locally in terms of atheist groups or former religious groups and stuff. But at the very least, there are plenty of them online based out of the U.S. that would be happy to have you and happy to help you whenever they can.
Absolutely.
And I have found that community in Nikki and Chris and everybody else. There's been so many people online that has been such a support for me. Like, yeah, I can't even remember to thank everybody. It's been so freaking awesome with everybody. Like, Chelsea, I talked to today, also one of your amazing screen callers that just helped me through also today. Like, I have found some big help online, and I'm eternally grateful, but it doesn't mean that I don't miss him, even though he's fake.
Well,
it's strange, but
it's good to be able to talk about it. And I see value in this call because you're not the only one. And people need to know that they're not alone. and you're not alone. Noah, the people he's listing are moderators.
Oh, right on.
Our newsletter editors, our volunteers, and we're going on around 30,000 people who've signed up on different platforms and in different ways, who've reached out to try and get some community, and who've found people who reached back.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that I like. Literally, it saved me. Nikki's ability to have time to talk to me that night makes me be able to call into the show, Talk Hidden, and actually didn't take all those pills that I have counted on my in my hands. I didn't take it because she was there for me, and I'm eternally grateful for everybody that helped me through this situation.
In the long run, brother.
You too, Eric.
Hey, in the long run, there's only so much we can do. We're not professionals.
No, I have seeked professional help.
Keep going, brother. I know it's tough, but I go every other week. You know, if your car is good enough to take to a mechanic when there's an issue, you know, you're worth taking care of you.
Yeah.
So.
I have one question before I go.
Yeah, what's up?
How can I make, and this is maybe a loose question, how can I miss God less? How can I make him be a less part of my life when he has been such a part of my life for 39 years?
Awesome. Actually, this one's way better than you think. In time, it will hold less for you. In time, as you recognize that it's really not a thing, it doesn't become comforting anymore. And replace it with something. Noah gave you some great examples. Other things are meditation, mindfulness techniques. Other things are journaling or reaching out to people you love. There are tons and tons of ways, but I'm telling you, number one, it will fade away. You know, it's like fear of hell. It's like, you know, all of these other different indoctrination pieces. Sexual indoctrination is one that takes forever. Some people go their whole lives without ever getting out of it, you know, long after they deconvert. But in time, you'll get there, and finding something to replace it really helps. I'm really glad you called in, man. And I'm really glad you're here. And we care about you, and we love you. And
thanks, Eric.
You take care of yourself.
I love you too. I love you all.
Love you back, man.
And Noah, please come to Norway and do a show.
And my fear is that if I ever go to Norway, I'll never leave, man.
Yeah, that's what Chris said some years ago. So yeah,
Chris is still in Norway. Chris is our newsletter editor. He's also in Norway.
Oh, right on, right on.
Take care, buddy.
Take care of yourself, man.
Yeah, I know.